Hey everyone, welcome to Pop XP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the Pop XP channel.
What's up, everybody? Teen sensation Billy Tucci here, coming to you live on a Wednesday night, the 5th of July, 2023. And I'm so excited because we have a great show tonight. We got two great shows tonight, but our first show is one with my, starring my brother from another mother, one of my best friends since the 7th grade, fellow monster kid, guy that taught me so much. I've forgotten more of what he's taught me than I'd say that Einstein learned in a lifetime. So without further ado, or don't, as Dr. Morris used to say, our 7th grade English teacher, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Perros. What's up?
Well, oh, there I am. Hello, Billy. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for so many things beyond just simply having me on this fine program of yours. A delight to be here, be with you, be working with you yet again.
And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks at the San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm so excited. I got my badge. I got 2 panels, which we could talk about. I'm running a panel, and I'm on a little panel called, I don't know, The Return of She.
That's right.
So looking forward to that.
Deb, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that this Sunday. Anyway, but we brought today. You are launching your new campaign, Stoker and Wells. Let me share it. Hang on a second. The Ashes of Revenge, and we got a couple of pals with us tonight, don't we?
We do. Shall we bring on?
Look at that! You just went up another.
I went up about $100. God bless.
Thank you guys. Well, Stephen, this is your show. Let's stop wasting time here. Stop wasting our guests' time. Why don't you bring in, introduce our 2 pals here?
I will bring them in an alphabetical order. I'm going to bring in a fine director, won the Directors Guild of America Award for a film he did for Nickelodeon called The Boy Who Cried Werewolf, starring the one, the only Brooke Shields. He launched Adrian Brody's career with a Sundance film called Ten Benny. He's directed all sorts of amazing actors over the years. And most recently, Eric is back in the news because he is the man who gave a shot right out of college to star in a movie to David Cornsweet, the new Superman.
Shut up.
Eric is the guy who discovered him, first film director to look at him, to have him read for one of his films and say, yeah, that guy's got what it takes. I don't care that he's not starred in any other films, been even featured in a supporting role. I don't believe, Eric can correct me if I'm wrong. But Eric is a great friend, director. He directed a movie I wrote and produced that Dolly Parton starred in, a Christmas movie we did together. Let's bring on Eric Bross.
All right. Eric, give me a second. Let me get my little mouse over you. There you go. What's up, brother?
Howdy, everybody. I'm here on my balcony, enjoying the beautiful weather out here in Los Angeles.
I'm going to fix your mic settings. Yeah, echo cancellation is off, so I don't know why you have there's an echo problem.
He sounds good on my end, but that's just everything sounds good on my end.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that sound good on my end, we're going to bring in Dan Madigan, who has the rare distinction of someone who has worked at both Disney and WWE and left both companies in a state of notorious rebellion. He is also the author of this amazing book on wrestling, on lucha wrestling, Mexican masked wrestling, called Mondo Lucha Go-Go. And he is also, because he majored in it, he is a fine artist and drew this on the inside cover of the book that he gifted to me. So I want him on this show to not only talk about the Stoker and Wells wrestling moves, But talk about the art, because Dan is a encyclopedic knowledge of all comic book art, graphic artists, illustrators. He could look at your cover and Barry's cover and recognize all of your influences. Without further everything, Dan Madigan.
What's up, Dan?
Hey guys, how you doing? Hey Billy.
Doing good,
sir.
brother. Well, we have gathered here today for the launch of our great friend Stephen Peros and Barry Orkin's Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. This is part 2, I guess, or sequel.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
This is an ongoing saga involving a 20-something screw-up named H.G. Wells meeting a disgruntled 40-something theater manager named Bram Stoker, and how the two men go on a shared adventure that winds up leading to the creative inspiration for both writers' first great work, The Time Machine and Dracula. The first story, very much like our Return of the Warrior trilogy, Billy, ideally, it was a satisfying story, but left room for there's something that's going to happen next.
Of course.
And this is what happens next. Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. It starts with a 3-page recap of events that led up to it. In case you're foolish enough to not have read the first book, I will give you a little recap, and then launches into The Ashes of Revenge, which is also being drawn by Barry Orkin and colored by the great team at a studio house.
Well, we got a video here, so let's play this video. And first of all, Dan and Eric, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know you're both California kids now, but will you guys be any chance you guys coming down San Diego way in a few weeks?
Dan?
No, I've done Comic-Con more than once. I tapped out.
I've actually, I'll be honest with you, I've never done it. I've never done Comic-Con. And I've worked for a bunch of different studios, but I've never done anything that really was in that, except maybe as you said, Steven, the Boy Who Cried Werewolf.
Boy Who Cried Werewolf. You did Vampire Bats with Lucy Lawless?
I did Vacancy 2 also.
You did you did a horror film, Vacancy 2, the sequel?
And I've never been. I've never actually gone. I was hoping, would you take me there?
I could get you a pass.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm saying this, and Billy knows how rare that is. It's incredibly expensive. They're sold out. They're this, they're that. But because I am moderating a panel, I have a certain allotment of guest badges for people who are friends of the panel. So we can talk about that off screen. Good evening, J.C. Vaughn. J.C. Vaughn is a great writer. His Al Capone Vampire is a great book series. He just closed his book 2. I have book 1, book 2's on the way, and I can't wait for book 3. It's a really smart, well-drawn, funny book, and he is editing Stoker and Wells. He edited the first book.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
I learned a lot from him, which we can go into. But yes, the man, the myth, the legend, J.C. Vaughn. But yes, I can certainly, we could talk about this offline about it. But yeah, we can definitely have, if you wanted to come, you can.
Yeah, we can make that work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just thank everyone for joining. Dennis Bartok, look at this. Welcome, Dennis Bartok.
Hey, the man, another myth, another legend. It just goes to prove but Dennis is someone I went to NYU Film School. He's done movies himself. He's directed. He's produced. He ran the American Cinematheque and built it to what it is today, which has now been bought by Netflix. And I can point directly to knowing him is why my movie with Kirsten Dunst eventually got made. It was a relationship. I met someone through him, and from there, one thing led to another, and I was making that movie. So stay close to the people you went to college with, or work your way up with, because they very, very well be the people who are, help your career and you'll help theirs, as Philly and I are doing as well.
Can I just say?
I want to say hello to our friends. We got Marcus Killigrew. As always, great to see you. Ara Galanian, the Armenian Knight, is here. Good to see you. Our Darko D13, welcome, Darko D13. Black Cat Guy, got the duck stick.
Wow. So, Eric, you were about to say something, sir.
Good to see you.
I invited a few friends up. My friend Michelle Lacey, Paula Pauline, my friend Michelle Lacey, who also is here in Los Angeles, a dear friend of mine, as well as Paula, who I think is going to be joining us in a minute, and a few other people who might be joining too. So
Excellent.
Joining
my friends
physically on your deck with you, or watching our show?
No, they're actually watching the show,
Oh.
but they may end up here on the deck. Who knows? Anybody's call.
Well, welcome, guys. Welcome all. And Steve Paris, you were creeping up 1941. Dan Madigan, anything happened in 1941?
Let me think. Hold on. I don't know.
Yes, Spielberg made a movie.
If you're living in Europe, you're in shit out of luck.
That's it.
Yeah, that's true. J.C. Vaughn, thank you so much, J.C. Vaughn, for that. Stoker and Wells is going to be a great book. If you haven't backed it yet, stop waiting. You'll be very happy you did. So, Steve, let's say.
I want to let Eric talk while he has the fire in him.
I just want to say that this is a very exciting series of books that has been created here by the great writer Stephen Paros, who to me is one of the most talented writers out there in Hollywood now. He's a Samuel French king. He's all over Samuel French. He's got so many plays published under Samuel French. Apart from his movie and his movie background, a couple movies he's not only directed himself but wrote, and of course Cat's Meow, which he brought up earlier. And I can also attest to, everyone knows Billy and his renown, but also Dan Madigan is also, as Stephen mentioned, a great writer, and someone I am actually working with now. We're developing a project for a television series called Requiem. He's another brilliant writer. So you really have a great group here. I myself am honored to be among this group, but Stephen Paros has created something quite incredible here with Stoker and Wells, and I'm very excited to be on the here.
Thank you, Eric. You backed the first book. You backed the second book. Dan Madigan, the same. I really appreciate it. Above and beyond the call of duty of just simply doing a pre-order, which of course I welcome anybody at any level. If someone's able to contribute $5,
Who gave the first donation to the first book?
I was going to say the very first donation. We launched the first book when Samuel French Bookshop was opened. We had a launch party there in the afternoon, and we went live. And the very first contribution was from Kane Madigan, the son of this man. How old was he at the time? 2017.
Oh, that was
12.
Yeah, he was 12. Yeah. No, younger.
Yeah, it was a chunk of change ago, but one of the reasons it's taken this long to do a second book, and then we can go into the campaign, Billy. But one of the reasons it's taken this long, because we thought we'd do it right on the heels of the first book, is that COVID hit. That was certainly part of it. But part of what also happened was and continues, although it's on hold because of this writers' strike. For those of you who have heard of the Writers Guild of America being on strike, is we started working with a company called Amasia Entertainment, which is run by and founded by the former president of Marvel Studios, and I have been developing Stoker and Wells into a TV series, limited series for the streamers. So it's taken a lot of work and rethinking it for the needs of television. For those of you who've read the first book, it takes place very compressed amount of time. So then you say, how do you expand it into the needs of a 6 or 8 or 10 episode season, 1 hour season, and we're not really doing it like 24 where every episode is in real time. So we were in the midst of doing that, and I held off on doing a second book, wondering, well, which direction will I take it? I had a direction in mind. Will I be redoing it with partners on the TV show, a distributor, a network, a studio, and then finally, because of the delay with the writer's strike, I went to my partners over at Amasia, and I said, look, I'd like to keep the book going. It's going to continue the story that was established in the graphic novel rather than the couple of the turns that we've been doing for the needs of television. And they absolutely said, please go ahead, do it with our blessing. Anything out there about Stoker and Wells is always going to be a plus. People know that sometimes the graphic novel or the book is a little different than the movie or TV show, and it's like two trains running. So I'm excited to continue with this version, which is now The Ashes. of revenge, as promised in the last panel of the previous book.
Yes, and we have a question for you by John. Hello, John. Thank you very much for joining the show. Was Stoker and Wells on another platform as well? I swear I thought I backed it already, but it's not showing in my Kickstarter campaign.
Well, it's very interesting you say that. I'm following a lot of what I've learned since this campaign from many of my mentors, including the guy right here, Billy Tucci, which is I chose to launch it, a 30-day campaign that ended 2 days ago on Indiegogo. That might be where, I would assume that's definitely where you saw it. And it was on Billy's page as well, because Billy did an awesome variant cover, which we'll take a look at. It's on the campaign when we scroll down. So I went there. Since Indiegogo, you take what you raise. I figured, let me do an Indiegogo. I guesstimated that it was going to be somewhere in the 5,000-6,000 range. It was. We raised 5,100, and this way, then I can subtract from what I need to raise in the all or nothing arena that is Kickstarter. So that actually is, so far following suit. But yeah, that's where you probably saw or heard of it, John. But this is this is the same campaign up here at Kickstarter. Some subtle differences. And I hope if you backed it then, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for supporting it. If there are some things you still wanted to get, you can scroll through our reward levels and see if there's something else that piques your interest.
Now, Stephen, curious, because I see that we have a lot of backers that are Indiegogo backers. That you've learned it, right? They're exclusively Indiegogo. They like to back Indiegogo. There's a new platform called Fund My Comic, which is also really cool. But I see that you closed this one.
Yes.
Any chance of you putting it into in-demand mode? Which
Well,
is like a store and run that for the next 30 days, so maybe we can get some people that just do Indiegogo.
Well, I went full court press to try to get the just Indiegogo people for the 30 days. Since Kickstarter is all or nothing, I would like people to get from Kickstarter at this point. It was offered to me by Indiegogo. I got that email which said, "Good news, you're eligible to go in demand." I thought you had to reach your goal to go in demand, but that actually wasn't the case. So I didn't. There's a possibility I could, but again, until I feel some need to, I really need those who are interested to go to Kickstarter. Like I said, I did a full 30 days on Indiegogo. If someone wants to reach out to me directly, they can via my website. If they really have some sort of ethical, moral issue with Kickstarter, they can reach out to me and I can see what we can do. StephenPeros.com, or you can contact me on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook. I'm one of two Stephen Peroses on Facebook. I'm the one who's not a realtor. So,
and I think, Steve, you keep banging your mic.
Oh, son of a gun.
You're hearing like a lot of clicking.
Yeah,
sorry,
there
like
it is.
There's no longer any clicking. No clicking.
Excellent. Well, let's check this video. And thank you so much, Tarks, for backing my cover. Thank you, buddy. We got excellent.
Thank you.
Steve, can I ask a quick question, just a technical question, guys, for those who may not know about this? When you're watching this broadcast, how do you technically make a contribution? How does one do it, technically speaking? What's the?
We'll show you. I'll scroll through right here. So here it is. Back this project. So basically, Eric, what it is, this is a Kickstarter platform, and it's crowdfunding. So what do you have? So here's Steve's page. You got a little nice thing on Steve there. He's back 30 campaigns, Steve, and only created 3. Well done, because that's a big thing for me. When I back someone's campaign, one of the first things I look at is to see if they've backed other campaigns themselves. Not necessarily mine. It doesn't matter if they back mine. But you'll see people that they'll have they'll have one campaign. They'll have a campaign, but they don't back anyone else.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll pass on that. But so what Steve has here is then he has a bunch of perks. If you see on the side here. So look here, right here, available rewards. You can get a PDF of book 2. It's $10. And you just hit the little pledge button here. And
right, so I'm watching. I'm part of this. I'm watching. What do I hit? What do I do to make my country while I'm watching live? Is my
all right. So if you go, okay, so you're gonna pick a perk that you like. Personally, if I were you, I would pick.
There you go. You just pass it.
There you go. Steve will read your script for a professional Stephen Peros, a professor, a produced screenwriter, will read your script for $350. And I mean, that's he's
and I'll throw
I'll
throw into the PDF of books 1 and 2 as well.
And I'll throw
You know, I was one of the in another life. I was one of the top screenwriters. Well, I'll say screenwriters. One of the top script readers for the William Morris Agency. I read for everybody and evaluated. I also teach, which I probably should update this little reward level to let people know I do that as well. Teach screenwriting and TV script writing. So again, I did that on the first campaign. A couple of people picked that pledge level up, and I was happy to do it. So yeah, and then we have a very, very rare Billy's variant cover from book 1, which we only have 5 copies left.
Yeah, I have only one of them myself.
Yep. It's a gorgeous Luca inspired cover, Art Nouveau inspired cover that Billy did, which he carried through for our cover for the new one, the variant cover here.
And Stephen, is there a link here? Like if I'm watching this now live,
Yeah.
Where's the link? How do I get to that link?
What do I hit? What link?
The link is in the description, Eric. But also, if you look in our Marcus Killigrew, who is our moderator, he has put the link in the description. But I'll also send you the link, or Steve can send you the link via the private chat.
And it'll be. It's now.
The average the viewer who's not part of our
if the average viewer is not seeing it on either my where I am posting it, where Billy is posting it, and so forth. If you go to Kickstarter and you type in Stoker and Wells, if you type in Peros, Peros, you're going to see this campaign. It is there to be.
Or they can go to Peros.com here, so that where your www is.
They certainly can. I don't. I will put it on there as well. But the more important thing is to go to Kickstarter. And underneath, wherever they are watching this on YouTube, the link should be there. Wherever they are watching this on Facebook, unlike us, we're watching it in StreamYard. Wherever they are watching it, the link will be posted underneath. Is that correct, Billy?
Yes, absolutely. It's actually in the description in this this YouTube show. So if you just go and read the description, there's a link right there for Stoker and Wells.
I'm asking stupid questions because I'm not so bright. You know, I'm not so bright. I just like to ask these questions.
Clearly.
And clearly that he's not so bright, or he's like.
I'm sitting around. Stephen Peros says, Eric, you want to come on my show? I said, Stephen's on shows, do Stoker Wells. I said, sure, why not?
He said, sure. Michael Corleone did this.
Michael Corleone did that.
He did that.
You know, every time you put up somebody's comment, it covers poor Dan Madigan's face.
Sorry, Dan. I apologize, Dan.
The man's smothering him.
There you go.
Let me tell you something.
There you go. I'll put my own face now.
I paid extra to be above Dan Madigan. Now I want my money back because he's up there now.
Good luck. So, Stephen, you did. I did say when I read the first book, I was amazed how you brought these two characters together in the story. And I said 2 years ago, I said, even before we talked about TV, I said, this is built for the narrative of television. I said, this is just an amazing story coming together. And because I'm a fan of both the writers. I mean, I've only read Dracula and Dracula's Guest. But I read a lot of H.G. Wells, and I was like blown away at how you just seamlessly took this together. And so, I mean, I would definitely suggest or recommend to get the first books first and then dive into the second, because you really have something, especially today, we need a lot of content, and there's so many venues now that can create this vision. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like to add to that not only has Stephen taken two different characters, both of literary renown, and smashed them together within almost a combination too, because you really got sci-fi and horror smashing those two genres together, and it's a wonderful mashup, creating something completely new. But I think also this content is the kind of thing, given Stephen's background, given the need for content that there, and we won't talk about it right now, but the fact that you get in early on something like this, it's bound to be looking at series, possible movie franchise, all these things. And to say you were one of the first people to be in on that is kind of an exciting thing. And I also want to give a shout out to Paul Rothman, our dear friend, actor and magician, Paul Rothman, who's joined us as well.
Thank you, Paul. And Paul,
hello, guys. Good to see you.
And
yes, Marcus, I'm going to do a little work here to pay the bills real quick. I know Marcus Killigrew. I can't search for She Senriaco on Instagram, on Indiegogo, but I can Google it. Yeah, apparently we are shadow banned on Indiegogo, which has been happening to a lot of creators. And I'm hoping that they might be set up at San Diego Comic-Con, because I'm not too happy about that at all.
What does that mean for somebody?
Shadow banned. So if you go to Indiegogo, and I mean, I'll show you guys right now. And this is, let me just do that real quick. And I'll show you what it is. It's really frustrating. So I'll go to Indiegogo right here, right? Which is another Eric and Dan. It's another crowdfunding platform. Okay, so here we are on Indiegogo. Steve's campaign is closed, right? So let me just find my.
It's actually right there in your search bar already.
Yeah, no, wait, I got too many windows open. Let me find the StreamYard so I could see where I'm at. All right, so you see, so you got right here, and I put in the search bar, She Senriaco Omnibus, and I did a search on it. Let me find that. Let me move this over here because I got too many windows open, too many screens. So I'll do a search, right? And it doesn't come up. Look.
Oh, something else. All these other things are coming up.
Yeah, and I'm spelling it exactly the way it's spelled. So that's called a shadow ban, which somehow happens. We don't know if someone's doing it there at Indiegogo. It's insanely frustrating. And
it only hurts them financially.
It hurts them as well. Yeah, but there's someone
your campaign has made a lot of money.
Yeah,
it could be the Russians. It could be the Russians.
Could be.
Well, do you think it's human error, Billy?
No, I don't think it's an error at all. I think someone's doing it on purpose.
Someone's revenging, trying to get back.
Let's go. I want to play your video, Steve.
All right, by God.
So everyone here, please enjoy Stephen Peros's Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge video. Give you a little insight on it. So here we go.
Hi, my name is Stephen Peros, and I am the writer-creator of the Stoker and Wells series. I'd like to welcome you to the campaign for the second book in our saga, Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. This book imagines a 20-something screw-up named H.G. Wells meeting a grumpy 40-something theater manager named Bram Stoker, and the two men going on a shared adventure that winds up leading to the creative inspiration for both writers' first great work, Dracula and the Time Machine. That first book that introduced characters wound up getting tremendous reviews from the media, which you can read more about below. So much so that we wound up getting on the radar of an amazing company named Amasia Entertainment, where we've been developing it as a TV series. And they know a thing or two about movies and comics because they were founded by the former president of Marvel Studios. But now with the writer's strike going on for all film and TV writers, that's allowed Barry and I to amp up our development of the follow-up book, Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. Please take a look below at the wonderful 3 preview pages drawn by Barry Orkin, colored by the amazing team at Studio House, and impeccably lettered by Mindy Lopkin. We also have a variant cover by Billy Tucci that's full color as you look below. One of the things that Billy has done is he has offered, just like he did when we did our first book, he has offered to let us have as a backer reward his original pencil sketch, one of a kind, signed by Billy and shipped to you. That was so popular in our first campaign, it sold on the first day. So if it's of interest to you, I encourage you to take a look and snatch it up. Billy did the variant cover for our previous book, Order of the Golden Dawn, based on a developmental drawing, an unused developmental drawing of our heroine, Nina, who is an Eloy from the Time Machine. He did this gorgeous cover, limited edition. I went into the vault. I took the only remaining 5 copies out to use for this campaign. So if you're interested in it, please take a look. It's at the pledge, one of the pledge levels below. We have a lot of other things as well, really cool stuff down there besides the book. We have Barry's amazing 5 bookmark set of 5 bookmarks that you can get as an add-on. We have this great 2-sided 11-ounce hot mug that Barry designed. You want to have your hot cocoa in that this winter. I'm also selling my dog, so you'll see her down there on the what? No. We said okay, fine. No dog. Hey, no dog. There will be no dog. Okay, well, thank you for stopping by and taking a look at our book and the pledge levels. On behalf of the team, we hope that you will give us a shot and order a copy of Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. And on behalf of me, my apologies for being willing to sell my dog.
Well done, my friend. Everybody, you guys can unmute yourselves now, please.
Unmuted.
I'll do it. I'll unmute you. I got you, Dan. Oh, that's good. You scoundrel.
I know. What can I do?
The letters from the ASPCA are going to start rolling in, baby.
Yeah.
So here is I want to just go up for one moment. So we have, we did get tremendously. This is just a cross section of some tremendous review quotes that we got, and these are not phony quotes where if you actually look at the review, it's actually a terrible review. These are all tremendous reviews, and there was more just like it. I didn't want it to be an embarrassment of riches, so I hand selected these 6 so people saw just how well our first book did. As we scroll down, we sort of recap. As we scroll down.
Hang on a second. I got
Leghorn here.
Scroll down.
As we scroll down.
Stephen is having to extemporize here. You shall.
I'm back. I'm back.
So, Stephen, you're a big.
All right, so let's do this. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Say that again, Dan.
You've been a big Hammer and horror fan since I've known you a long time, and you want to give a little taste how this came together, because you just gave a great speech a couple of weeks ago at the Philosophical Research Society about Dracula. We were there for that. And it was you gave a great, insightful speech and about how the book to the play to the film everything happened. So, how did you come together? What was the genesis for putting these 2 characters?
Well, it began life as a screenplay. I was trying to think. For some reason, I has had inspiration. Here's the cover of our book by Barry Orkin, our artist, who did all not only the art but the inking and coloring. But what I wanted to do was, I'd never come up with sort of one of those big summer tentpole ideas, and suddenly I started. It was a time when the last of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes were on, and it was towards the Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp was petering out, and I just thought there was room for a next sort of period fantasy, costume Victorian era sort of tentpole series. I started thinking about a buddy story. I started researching the authors of the era, and once I landed on H.G. Wells and Bram Stoker, 2 different generations, 20s and 40s, 2 totally different philosophies. I started thinking, oh my, these are just perfect, because drama is about conflict, comedy is about conflict. It goes, the most fundamental is the odd couple. One's the messy one, one's the clean one, etc. And so when I thought about pairing these 2, who they're actually, even though they both live in London at the same time, there's no real record of the 2 men meeting, chatting, talking, and so forth. And I think there's reason for that. I thought that it lends perfect credibility to the idea that this is the absolutely true story of Bram Stoker and H.G. Wells, give or take 48 hours. And I paired them up. And then when I started reading Time Machine and Dracula, and the fireworks just kept going off about, oh my God, where I saw there are 2 stories linking. It isn't a thing. The idea isn't that they go on a trip. Oh, and here's the scene you would have seen in Dracula, but now here's the scene you would have seen in the Time Machine. It's a fused story. It's a single story where we have elements that overlap between Bram Stoker's Dracula and The Time Machine. And I will say this, I tell people this all the time. It is written so that if you've read both books, sure, you'll get some extra level of enjoyment. But it does not require you that you have ever read Dracula or you have ever read The Time Machine. Because the bottom line is you, the audience, are in the same boat as Bram Stoker and H.G. Wells. It is a new adventure for them. It is a new adventure for you. So that is what's happening in the pages of the book. There is nothing there that will confuse you. But again, it's just some extra bit of appreciation you'll have if you are familiar with the texts of both of those.
But Stephen, also you have speaking further to what Dan was saying in the speech you gave that night, you also obviously are one of the top experts on the horror genre, monster movies in particular. You've made contributions to a few books, as I understand it. So you're not just coming from a discovery background where, oh, this sounds good, but this is coming from years and years and years and years of deep study and on a cinephile level. No? Oh
yeah, no, this is my sweet spot, my wheelhouse, all those sorts of cliched phrases. But yes, I grew up loving this genre. I wrote a couple of things in that genre. Nothing that was produced. A film I directed was a ghost story. It was a co-written piece. But yeah, no, this is something I was so excited to dive into and research, because to me, what was exciting is to present Stoker and Wells exactly as who they were in 1894 when this story begins, and then so that the only thing fictitious is the fantasy adventure I take them on. Bram Stoker was someone who was I think a 13 or 14 year 14th year as the manager of the Lyceum Theater. What very few people don't know is that he remained the manager of the Lyceum Theater even after, and I don't mean manager like he opened the shop and swept up. He was in charge, and he ran the career of the great actor Sir Henry Irving, whose theater it was, who starred on the stage in the plays and directed. But he sort of took care of another man's great theater and another man's great career while he was writing very slowly these books. So he was not able to, as they say, leave his day job. And he worked for Henry Irving up until his death, up until Irving's death, many years after the publication of Dracula. It was the movies that made Dracula the global phenomenon that it is today. It was published in a few different languages during his lifetime, but it really wasn't until the late 1920s, early 1930s, the combination of the British stage play, followed by the Broadway production with Bela Lugosi, followed by the movie in 1931, that began the phenomenon that was Dracula. And there are many differences.
Stephen, you want to talk about what Eric said? You want to talk about how you're an expert in this, how they did Nosferatu and that they were told. Can you give a little history about that?
Nosferatu was F.W. Murnau, the great German director, in 1922 decided he was going to make his version of Dracula. And just to show you how low regard a fantasy novel, a horror novel, was held by the community in general, he just thought he could do it without getting the rights. He went and made Nosferatu. It screened in Germany, and then someone saw it who knew Mrs. Stoker. Bram Stoker had died about 8 years before. So it contacted Mrs. Stoker. Mrs. Stoker sued, won, and it was supposed to be destroyed, and thankfully it was not. But it's Nosferatu that began the tradition that we see in. Thank you so much, Ara. I appreciate that. It's Nosferatu that began the tradition that we see in cinema and in all vampire films, not just Dracula films, of vampires being destroyed by the first ray of the sun. That is actually not in Bram Stoker's book. All Bram Stoker says in Dracula is that Dracula, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially the spirit is I only see him at daylight. I only see him at night. He seems to not prefer the daylight. And some suggestion, I think, that his powers may be weakened by sunlight. But nothing is ever seen on screen in that capacity, so, or in the book, in the pages of the book. It was Murnau who said, "Oh, that's interesting. I think I have an idea," and created the death of Nosferatu at the end, which now becomes a part of vampire lore.
I mean, it's in my movie, The Boy Who Cried Werewolf, because it's a story about vampires fighting werewolves, and in it they are killed by exposure to the sun. They blow up in a giant. But isn't that kind of interesting? I think you pointed this out in your speech, that there was a kind of a building and evolution of the genre, of the story.
Absolutely.
Of Dracula.
No,
Yeah.
we all sort of own.
In general.
Every filmmaker is added or something to it. I mean, the book, if I'm not mistaken, he's done it by a hunting knife.
Yeah, he's either by a Bowie knife, by a Texan.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
A Texan slits his throat.
He's killed with the mountains. Yes, so
Can't trust those Texans or those.
It isn't Van Helsing who pounds a stake into his heart. It is a Texan.
Who created that one? Where did that come from?
Well, and that's
in the
interesting.
heart.
Yeah, you had Billy Campbell play that Texan in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and they didn't use that in the film.
Well, it's funny. Bram Stoker's Dracula is such a cocky title for a movie that really is not any more faithful, in fact, less faithful than others. Probably the most faithful is the Louis Jourdan BBC two-parter that you can still find online. It's called Count Dracula, and it's very strong. But this whole idea that, what's that, Eric?
Louis Jourdan. Wow.
Louis Jourdan. This whole idea that Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Coppola film, is all about the lost love and the reincarnated love. None of that is in Bram Stoker's Dracula. It actually was first appearance of any of that is in the Jack Palance version from the 70s by Dan Curtis, who did Dark Shadows and
produced The Night Stalker.
So I feel like people owe Dan Curtis, or rather the great Richard Matheson, the great novelist, screenwriter who came up with that idea. They should have always been paying remake rights to Richard Matheson he came up with that whole thing that Dracula's always been in search of some lost love from hundreds of years ago.
A lot of people, Richard Matheson, a lot of things.
Yeah, that's very true. For those who don't know, he wrote I Am Legend, which became obviously the Omega Man, Last Man on Earth, and Somewhere in Time, the Christopher Reeve film that is a favorite of many. The Shrinking Man, which became The Incredible Shrinking Man. So many classics.
Wow. He wrote. When did he write Somewhere in Time? Was that before or after?
I don't think it was a terribly old novel when it was made into a.
That was the Christopher Reeve movie. The Christopher Reeve with what's her name?
That was
Jane Seymour.
That was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
To the premise of Night of the Living Dead, if you look at the structure, I mean, people have said, Romero said, he goes, you can't help but be influenced by every zombie movie since then. It was something to Matheson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, George Romero said quite bluntly in early interviews when he was writing Night of the Living Dead, he basically said, yeah, I saw this movie, The Last Man on Earth, which is the Vincent Price adaptation of it that Matheson had written and then took his name off. He'd written it for Hammer Films. Hammer sold it to an Italian producer, and they made it in Italy. It's actually a good film that holds up as the years go on. Very strong.
It's in the public domain too.
Yeah, and there's
right?
What's that?
Sidney Socklows, the
director.
Yeah.
And he said he'd watch this film and he just saw these wandering, basically zombies. You watch it, they're exactly like Romero's zombies, just pounding on the door. I mean, they're not eating flesh and so forth. But that image, that central, stark black and white image of people who had been risen from the grave, all these people in suits and dresses wandering around because they died and come back. He said that influenced it.
I always thought that myself, when I saw Invisible Invaders too, which is in the 50s, mid-50s, that's
totally agree. Totally agree.
Everyone comes back in a three-piece suit,
Yeah, and where all of this kind of comes into play is, you do the work, whether you're a new person who just wrote something and it got made and it's on TV or it's a podcast or it's a movie, or you're Bram Stoker in the 1800s and your work went out there. The people then own it. The artists then own it. They're going to play with it. They're going to be inspired by it. They're going to, obviously there are certain legal things to be able to keep control, but as time goes on, particularly Dracula, and now obviously it's in the public domain. I don't have to pay rights to anybody to use the Time Machine or Dracula. But I did want to be faithful to them both in the pages of both of these books. So,
Stevie, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What apart from the very obvious, biggest point that you're mashing up two different genres, two characters, famous literary characters, do you feel within the genres, what particular tropes did you within the genres adhere to, and where did you diverge a little bit within the the works here?
Well, it wasn't so much about the tropes, the things that we traditionally see. Well, certainly the trope of Dracula. I went back to the non-trope version of how Dracula may perish in the first book, although, as we all know, when Dracula dies at the end of any book, he's going to come back in the next one, as he does here. But I went to Stoker's, so there isn't somebody pounding a stake into the heart of the vampire. So in terms of how he ultimately perishes. So it was really, I wasn't really thinking in those terms of tropes and how am I going to subvert tropes. It was really about character and story and going into these two books, fusing these ideas, realizing that both men wrote stories with strong female leads and fusing that into one central female character. Wells has Weena and Stoker has Mina, and my book has Nina.
Now, which are these characters from? Which books?
There's Weena, who is an Eloy in the Time Machine. There's Mina Harker, who is in Dracula. And part of the sort of creative barter that the two men have is that neither will get to use her name, so they each come up with a name that kind of sounds vaguely like Nina, who Mina Harker was based on, and Weena in the Time Machine was based on. I've been so immersed in this, I actually think this is the way it happened.
Well, in other words, you're saying you're creating a story which is almost like an origin story for their stories that they created.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very cool.
So, Steve, when you put the narrative together, and I've read the first one a couple of times and seamlessly, but you put it together, you create the narrative. What do you share with Barry? Barry's such a great artist. What do you share visually? Do you give him any clues or cues to go off?
Well, yes. This is the second time I'm giving Barry a graphic novel script, and in the interim, I did 3 books with the gentleman down below, Billy, where I learned even more. And so I didn't give Barry the She trilogy of Return of the Warrior. For those who don't know, here I was a writer on that with obviously Billy's immense contributions as well. But what I found is on the first book, I gave him more script and dialogue and just general action. And I realized when I got into with Billy, you're really the graphic novel writer winds up being the writer director. You're describing images. The artist becomes the director of photography, the casting director, the costume designer, the production designer. They do all these beautiful. They help this. So I find that in order to not make the process go too long and not make your artist draw something you didn't mean, it's very important to describe the visual as you see it. This way, the artist can say, "Oh, I like that," or "Oh, I have a better way to suggest to you." But if you don't suggest it, they're going to spend all this time drawing what they think you mean, and then you're going to give them a note, and they wish you had just told them that up front. So the second time now with this book, I'm being very specific about how many the panels, the size of them on the page, what's happening in each of them, and then I always, just like you do on a film set, you hire great keys and you don't want to mute their gifts. So I always tell Barry, this is what I'm sending your way, but please, if you have some better idea or suggestion, please come back to me with it. I'm happy to.
Stephen, someone just brought up that they saw great roles for Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, there were no. Yeah, they said there were. Paul Taylor said, "I thought there were no strong female leads before Jennifer Lawrence."
Now, if we were to shoot this the way they shot Lord of the Rings, where they reduced the scale of the actor, she would be a great Nina in our story. I'm just saying.
And let me tell you something. There was a big article in Variety about how, for example, Disney is is kind of batting a very low average this year on its films, and people are starting. There's that echo chamber that starts to have as you start to feed on your own material, and how often, how many times, how many iterations of Star Wars can you do? Oh, like for example, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out that if you watch the third in the trilogy, there was a flyer in there. He just passes the camera for 2 seconds. There's a whole series now about him, or whole movie trilogy. Like, what the fuck? So excuse my French, but like, you know, I think Hollywood is hungry for this kind of thing. And I think creating this kind of this kind of original material and IP is critical. And that's why I think these books are like,
absolutely. And these books are all extremely limited. My cover, there's only 140 of them of my cover available. So get in on this, guys. This is a fantastic, fantastic project. I'm extremely proud to play some small part in it.
You played it, but listen, I want to say, you know, this went live only hours ago, and your original art was snatched up. Barry's original cover art was snatched up. People are buying the book. We sold lots of copies on Indiegogo. I want to answer some of these questions here.
So, Steve, are you going to have enough books at Comic-Con, right? You have a lot of fans. You'll have enough at the table to sell, right?
I am not going as a vendor. I will give people. I will. This campaign will still be going on when I'm down there. So I'm going to have cards with a QR code, so people can just and when I do my panels, if people show me that they have pledged at the 25 or higher level, I'll give them a free set of bookmarks, $5 set of bookmarks. I'll do something. We'll try to come up with something that I can gift them for pledging while they're at the con. So yeah, I mean, but I won't have the book won't be physically in hand by then. We're going to have that in hand by November 23, hopefully sooner. But that's what we believe is the outside.
Okay, and the first one sold out. The first one's a collector's item already.
Yeah, it was. When they're gone, we'll see if I get into a second printing or not, or whether I'm going to hold off on the progress on the TV show. In which case, those are definitely collector's editions for sure.
Yeah, Kane has his upstairs on the shelf.
Absolutely.
There was a question up above about Barry's process, Billy, on the chat.
Let me look for that.
Barry, where did it go? I'm sorry, we lost it somewhere.
No, it's right. I can scroll back and get it. It's no big deal.
Does Marcus Killigrew? Does Barry work old school or digital?
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
A little bit of both. He draws in pencil. The first book, he did pencils for ink, as Billy does. But now Barry is doing a little bit more ink for ink on his, with a combination of pencils for ink. But he's also drawing slightly differently. He realized on the first book, he did more detail than was necessary. And he realized he could accomplish his goal of making it a rich drawing. But when it's distilled down to that small size that these books are, he realized he was spending a little bit too much time on things that no one would ever see.
Right.
Which as we look at the great comic book artists, they all economy was a huge part of their genius. Would you, Billy and Dan, would you agree with that? You guys are more learned on this than I am.
No, yeah, 100%. And it's all it's all about speed too. No one's ever completely happy as illustrators with the final product of your work.
Well, as a reading the comic strips when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cartoonist, and I, as a kid, 79, I didn't realize that they drew big and shrunk it down, and I was like, how did they draw such amazing, Alex Raymond and Al Capigo? I had no clue. They drew big, but as you draw small, you learn, okay, I need this, I don't need that. It's a matter of like what you need and what sells the picture. For me, comic strips were the first visual narrative that taught me how to tell stories. I think it was free. It's every day that it came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we got a super chat. Thank you so much, Steve. $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Mr. Sleeper.
Thank
Steve,
you.
Does this have any kind of steampunk vibe? Wells is kinda the father of steampunk. Smiley face. most of my art is steampunk inspired. It's my favorite genre.
The answer is, I have three answers to that. Yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah,
We've been covered by the steampunk media. People, when I have been and had tables at Comic-Con, WonderCon, Long Beach, LA, Albuquerque Comic-Con, steampunk people come up and buy it all the time. There's definitely a steampunk component. You'll see a little bit of it certainly in the pages that you could find online on our campaign. But absolutely, if you're a fan of steampunk, you will thoroughly enjoy. I mean, and Barry's art is just gorgeous.
Beautiful. And I just want to comment. I just want to comment what I love about what I'm seeing about this, and particularly is represented in the covers, the color palette, the golden color palette of the first one, which reflects the title, and then you have this one, which is first one gold, this one all reds and dark blues. It's lovely. It just
Barry did a lovely monochrome for both covers. And Barry did the inside of the book is colored by Studio House, which is a great team of artists, of colorists, spearheaded by a guy named Joke, and he's got a team under him. But Barry drew, inked, and colored the cover for our first book and the cover here. So you're looking at entirely Barry's work. And we went with them. He pitched me the monochrome on book one, and he came to me with this. And I said, I had no idea. I thought he was going to be coloring this in a very traditional way. And when he came with this, I said, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This just pops so strongly. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what he's done here with this cover.
But I just like how it reflects a new state.
It does, in particular, the vampire element.
Yeah.
You know, the vampire element is even stronger in this second book, and that's because he gave me two different color choices. This, I forget what the first one was. I forget what the two colors were, but to me, this sort of reddish hue. To me, said what was right said what we were going to find on the inside pages, and it's a great companion piece to the earlier cover.
Sure is, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a great book, and Barry Orkin, I did run. Steve, I didn't make a mistake and run the. Oh, there you go. God bless.
Are you serious?
Look at
Are
that.
You serious? You are
wrong for me now.
You're over $2,000, Steve. Great launch.
Put you over the
We'll have
top.
you on. Again, I don't know if you want to come on tomorrow night. The reason why I ran the Chi Senryaku omnibus trailer at the beginning is that it is closing tomorrow on Kickstarter. Barry Orkin contributed a piece to that as well. Barry also designs my logos for She. He colored the first two issues of She until we switched to computer coloring because it's just too much work for him, and I guess he was tired of doing favors for me. But he's also Barry and I became friends in 7th grade. We all three of us met at the same time.
That's right,
And,
Billy. For those who don't know, Billy, Barry, and I all met in 7th grade on Long Island, a little town called North Babylon, Peter J. Bredin Junior High School.
That's right.
You guys are the kiss of the comic book world.
See, that's it. I love it.
Weird when you think about it.
All right, guys. So everyone, Nile Scala is streaming now. We got another show going on. Busy night, Steve. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. If you guys want to stick around in the chat afterwards, we'll talk and hopefully Eric can get you down to Comic-Con, man. Let's plan it.
Love to be there.
And you got to have the guy up on top. You got to have Dan on a wrestling night or something, because this man is an encyclopedic knowledge of wrestling, boxing, comic book artists, illustrators.
The guys are walking encyclopedia for sure, especially on the particular subjects. I will tell you this: boxing in particular, man.
Yep.
This guy knows all, and that has been, like I said,
that's part of the show that is the show you guys are doing. Anyway, we'll let you go because you got a show to go.
Yeah,
all right, Billy, thank you.
Guys. Yeah, everyone out there, please, the description for the link for Stoker and Wells, Ashes of Revenge is in the description here. I know a lot of people watch the show afterwards. Please give it a look. If you can support it, please do. If you cannot, just share it on your social media. This is a great team of creators. I'm a huge fan of this. Is an exceptional book and an exceptional series by exceptional Man,
It really is. It's fantastic. And I'm a hard critic, and I don't like anyone's success, but this is great. And I was
All right, guys. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
and we'll
Alrighty.
talk to you guys
Take care.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll